I still remember the exact moment my heart cracked. It happened in my own kitchen, with a cup of cold coffee sitting untouched beside me, while I stared at a photo online of my son smiling beside his wife at the launch party for the company I had helped build. The caption read, "Proud of what we created together. Family only. Family only." Those 2 words stayed in my head, like a wound that refused to close, because I had invested $500,000 into that company. My savings, my retirement, the money my late husband and I spent 30 years building together, and suddenly, I wasn't considered family anymore. My name is Diane. I'm 62 years old, widowed, and until 2 years ago, I believed my son Ethan was the one person in this world who would never hurt me. After my husband passed away, Ethan became my reason to keep going. He called me every day. He visited every weekend. When he talked about his dream of starting a technology company, I saw the same fire his father used to have in his eyes. I wanted to believe in him, and honestly, I needed something to believe in too. One evening, Ethan came to my house carrying folders and business plans. His wife Vanessa sat beside him, smiling politely while he explained everything. "We just need one investor to get started," Ethan told me. "After launch, everything changes." Vanessa reached for my hand. "We'd never forget what you did for us," she said softly. Should have listened to the little voice inside me that felt uneasy, but I ignored it because that's what mothers do sometimes. We silence our instincts for the people we love. 3 months later, I transferred the money, $500,000, almost everything I had. At first, things seemed wonderful. Ethan called constantly with updates. He thanked me over and over. Vanessa even sent flowers on Mother's Day with a note that read, "Thank you for believing in us." I framed that note, God. Thinking about that now makes me feel foolish. As the company grew, things slowly changed. The calls became shorter. The visits stopped. Vanessa always had excuses. They're busy. They're under pressure. Startups are stressful. I believed every word until one Friday evening when I saw photos online of their official company launch party, a party I knew nothing about, a party attended by investors, media people, friends, and Vanessa's entire family, but not me, not the woman who gave them the money to build it all. I stared at those photos for hours, waiting for Ethan to call and explain, but he didn't, and deep down, I think that was the moment I realized I had not invested in a company. I had financed my own betrayal. The next morning, I finally called Ethan. He answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, Mom," he said casually, like nothing had happened. I tried to keep my voice steady. "There was a launch party." A short silence followed. "Oh, yeah. It was last minute. Last minute." I swallowed the lump in my throat. I saw Vanessa's parents there, her cousins too. Another silence. Then his tone changed slightly. "Vanessa handled the guest list." That sentence shattered something inside me because he said it so easily, like he wasn't responsible, like excluding me had simply happened. I laughed softly, but it came out broken. "I gave you $500,000, Ethan." "I know, Mom." "No," I whispered. "I don't think you do." That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every moment in my head, every sacrifice, every memory, every birthday I worked double shifts to afford, every school event I attended alone after my husband got sick. I had given that boy everything, and somehow, I became disposable the moment success arrived. Weeks passed, and things only became colder. When I called, Vanessa answered instead of Ethan. "He's in meetings. He's traveling. He'll call you later." But later never came. One afternoon, I decided to visit their office myself. The receptionist smiled politely when I introduced myself. Then she asked a question that stunned me. "Do you have an appointment?" "An appointment for my own son." Before I could answer, Vanessa appeared from down the hallway wearing an expensive white suit and carrying a designer handbag I recognized. Immediately, I had bought it for her birthday, 6 months earlier. Her smile faded the second she saw me. "Oh," she said flatly. "You should have called first." I felt humiliated. Standing there, I just wanted to see Ethan. "He's busy." "I drove an hour to get here." Vanessa crossed her arms. "This is a professional environment now." "Diane, professional environment." The words hit harder than she probably intended, because suddenly I understood everything. To them, I wasn't family anymore. I was an embarrassing reminder of where their money came from. I looked around the office, the glass, walls, the expensive furniture, the employees walking around proudly. My money was everywhere, but somehow I had become invisible. That evening, I went home and opened the folder Ethan originally brought me when he asked for the investment, and for the first time, I read every single page carefully. That's when I discovered the truth. My hands actually shook as I stared at the documents. There was no official ownership agreement under my name, no protected shares, no legal security, nothing. Had trusted my son completely, and that trust had cost me everything. But what hurt even more was realizing Ethan knew exactly what he was doing. I cried harder that night than I did at my husband's funeral. Because grief is painful, but betrayal from your own child, that destroys you differently. Still, something changed inside me after that. The sadness slowly turned into clarity. Then, clarity turned into strength. And for the first time in months, I stopped asking myself why they betrayed me. Instead, I started asking how I was going to survive it. And that question changed everything. The next morning, I called an attorney. Not because I wanted revenge at first. Honestly, I just wanted answers. But after reviewing everything, the attorney looked at me carefully and asked one question. "Did your son ever tell other investors you were a founding partner?" I frowned. "Yes, many times." The attorney nodded slowly. "That changes things." Over the next few weeks, we uncovered emails, recorded investor meetings, and company presentations where Ethan publicly described me as an original investor and partner. Legally, it mattered a lot, especially because they had used my financial contribution to attract larger investors while privately removing me from ownership discussions. What Ethan and Vanessa did wasn't just cruel. It was dishonest. And eventually, the truth started spreading, quietly at first, then very publicly. Investors became nervous. Meetings were cancelled. People started asking questions. Ethan couldn't answer. One afternoon, Ethan finally showed up at my house. After months of silence, he looked exhausted. Older somehow. "Mom," he said quietly, standing at my doorway. "Can we talk?" I stared at him for a long moment. This was the same boy who used to run into my arms after school. The same little boy who once cried because he thought thunderstorms were monsters in the sky. And now here he was, a stranger. I stepped aside silently. He sat across him from me at the kitchen table where this whole story began. "I messed up," he whispered. I didn't respond. Tears filled his eyes. "Vanessa," kept saying business and family shouldn't mix. I thought I could fix it later. "But you didn't," I said calmly. He lowered his head. "No." For the first time in months, I saw guilt on his face instead of pride. And strangely, that hurt more than anger ever did. Eventually, the company settled privately. I recovered my investment with interest, but by then, The money no longer mattered to me because some losses can never truly be repaid. Ethan and Vanessa separated less than a year later. The pressure, the lawsuits, the public embarrassment, it destroyed the image they worked so hard to build. And me? I finally learned something important. Love should never require you to abandon your self-respect, especially as a mother. We spend our lives protecting our children from pain, but sometimes we forget to protect ourselves from them too. Today, my life is quieter, peaceful even. I travel more now. I garden. I spend time with people who value me, not for what I can give, but for who I am. Ethan still calls sometimes. Our relationship survived, but it changed forever because trust, once shattered, never returns in the same shape. And if there's one thing I learned from losing $500,000, it's this: never let love blind you to the truth standing right in front of you.